It is step 8 and you're still here. That tells me that not only are you someone that takes information in, it tells me you're a high achiever, right? Because information is step 1 and implementation, actually doing something with the information is the real power, right? I've always thought, you hear these people talking about, right? I read a book every week and I go, that's awesome, kind of. Like, are you implementing anything in the book? And sometimes I ask myself that question. I go, do I need to buy 10 more books or I just need to implement some of the ones I've already bought? So here's what's interesting. We've gone through some amazing principles, right? We've talked about pleasure versus pain. And we respond way more to pain than we do to pleasure, and how to rework that in our mind so that we can have a really incredible life. We've talked about, the 4 reasons most people fail. And the 4 reasons most people fail is because, they weren't following the footsteps of others, which is what you're doing on this video. You're following the footsteps of people that have been there and done it, right? So the first reason people fail is they don't follow the footsteps of other people. The second reason, right, people fail because sometimes they're chasing a goal that's not theirs. And the third reason that people fail is because they weren't clear on their plan. One of the things that I've talked about so much in these videos is get clear. Get clear on your daily activities. Get clear on how you're going to grow your business. Get clear on how you're going to market to your database. Get clear on how you're going to take care of those people. Get clear on a schedule that matches your goals. I love that quote. Does your daily schedule match your goals? You'll never hit your goals if they're sabotaged by your daily schedule. And then the last reason that people don't hit their goals is because they're unwilling to pay the price. The fact that you've watched every single video, the fact that you've made implementation into your life and you've taken action tells me that you're willing to pay the price. You're willing to do the work. You're willing to write down your goals. You're willing to do the things that it takes, the part of that price tag, to have a big life. Right? One of the other things we've talked about is what are the ways to build your business? And we've talked about there's different categories, right? Taking care of current clients, taking care of your past clients, increasing the referral sources you have in your business, right? Who can send you great referrals? And we've also talked about how you've got to go get new clients, right? In one of the last videos, I think it was step 6, we talked about how every database has a fallout rate of 10 to 14%, right? Your database will shrink if you don't continually add new people to it. One of my favorite things we've talked about is how to make your business predictable. How do I have a predictable business? One of the things that I'm so passionate about is you being able to wake up at the beginning of the year and knowing how you're going to build your business, knowing what kind of business you're going to have throughout the year, because you know what actions you need to take to have a predictable business, right? And yet the reality is, so often people go, my business goes up and down and up and down. It's because their actions go up and down. Right? You'll never have a predictable business until you have consistent actions. You'll never have a predictable income until you have consistent actions. So you're taking all of these concepts, you're boiling them down to, what do I need to do every single day? What are my predictable actions so that I can end up having a predictable income, end up having a predictable life? One of the other things we talked about that I love is this concept of your unique value proposition, getting very clear on who you are and how do you express that to people in your world, and not making it so freaking complicated that nobody can actually repeat, right? The worst value proposition is when somebody goes, we give excellent service to quality people in a timely, whatever. It's so high-minded, it makes no sense, right? My favorite one was, actually one that we were talking about the other day. This gal said, I felt like a gourmet cook working the burrito line at Chipotle. And that led into her value proposition. And what I loved about it is it just made sense, right? She goes, I felt like I was this amazing chef, right? And I was working the burrito line at Chipotle. And all of a sudden people go, wow, so that's why you switched over here. And that's why you're able to give great service, right? So all of a sudden that analogy, that clarification of her unique value proposition made all the difference. So I trust that you've taken the time to do that. One of the other concepts we've talked about is how to make a first great call, how to have a great introduction, and then a hook, and then making a promise of what you're going to bring to the table, and then actually taking that to the closing. And a lot of the stuff, especially things that they're going to take practice, right? One of the things that builds self-confidence is practice, right? If you're feeling insecure, you're feeling self-doubt about something, it's probably just because you haven't practiced it enough. The other concepts, which is one of my favorite, is these concepts of time and self-management, right? Nailing your 20%. The concept of going from could to should to must. The concept of counterbalance, right? Nailing your one thing here so that then I can counterbalance and go be present somewhere else. We talked about, well, I love this conversation we've had about the 5 decisions. Am I going to be a victim or am I going to be a victor? Am I going to be a winner who anticipates or am I going to be a loser who just reacts? We've talked about one of the other ones was there's an event, then you have a response, and that equals the outcome. We've talked about one of the decisions you have to make is the realization that 10% is the event, 90% is how you respond. I want you to consider this and maybe even write this down. There's 3 reasons why people get detracted. There's 3 things that will really mess you up moving forward if you're not aware of them. The first one is the failure to anticipate the road ahead. Not knowing what's ahead will mess you up. One of the great things about working with a coach, one of the great things about being involved and doing these kinds of things is so that you can anticipate the road ahead. Another thing that will mess you up moving forward is lack of follow through. Lack of follow through will mess you up. And the last thing that will mess you up is not keeping your mindset consistent. One of the things you've got to do is you've got to continually pour in and take care of your mindset. So lack of follow through, right? Lack of knowing what's on the road ahead, and then lack of taking care of your mindset. Those 3 things will mess you up if you're not careful. So one of the things that I wanted to give you is 7 steps, 7 ways to kind of get back up. Because what I know is something's going to happen, right? Good, bad, or indifferent. Life is tough sometimes. So things are going to happen in your life. Maybe something in your business, maybe something in your personal life that's going to kind of mess you up. So I want to give you the 7 steps to get back up. How do you get back up? How do you kind of take care of yourself before you get too messed up, right? Let me give you the 7 ways to get back up, because life is going to show up, and what's amazing is when you know how to get back up, some of those things are okay. Having the resilience, right? We talked about this last week. Knowing that I am a resilient person, knowing that I am a resourceful person, knowing that I'm someone that even if I do get knocked down, I know how to get back up. Sounds like an 80s song. All right, here we go. So the first one is number 1, stop. You've heard of stop, drop, and roll. Number 1 is stop, drop, and tool. Meaning when you feel like you're in that wrecked place, or you feel like something didn't work out, or you've hit rock bottom, take a moment and the first thing you got to do is just stop. Take a breath, stop, drop, take a breath, sit down for a moment, and realize that you have this tool. And so often, the tools are the questions I ask myself. So I'm going to give you some of those. Yet the very first thing you can do is just stop, drop, and grab a tool. Grab the next 6 steps to get back up. Number 2 is recognize it for what it is, right? So, sometimes we hit rock bottom, or sometimes we go through something rough. So the first thing you do is you stop. Then you've got to recognize what is it, right? What's really going on? Acknowledge for what it really is, and then acknowledge what am I feeling? What am I feeling? What's causing me to feel this way? One of the things I know is sometimes I can get into anxiety, right? Or I can start feeling depressed, whatever it is. The first thing I do is just catch myself. I stop. The second thing is I go, take a moment. What am I feeling? What's causing me to feel this way? One of the questions I ask myself is, if I'm feeling depressed, or I'm feeling anxious, or I'm feeling whatever it is, I go, what would I have to believe in order to feel this way? Right? It's just one of the great questions I ask myself to kind of bring myself back to center. Another thing on this step 2, which is recognize it for what it is it's okay to feel the pain sometimes. Sometimes something negative happens, a transaction falls apart, maybe a relationship falls apart. It's okay to feel the pain for a moment. I think so often as high achievers, we don't want to be victims, so sometimes we pretend things don't hurt. Now, I'm not saying go take 6 months to lick your wounds, yet sometimes it's okay to go, you know what? This sucks. Like if a relationship falls apart, like that can be painful. And yet take a moment, don't brush off those emotions. Don't pretend you're not feeling that way. Just go, you know what? This sucks. It hurts because I had a dream that life was going to be different. Right? I had a dream life was going to be different, and it's okay to be upset that it didn't work out. Right? A transaction falls apart. It's okay to go, you know what? I had already spent that money 18 different ways in my mind, and it kind of sucks that the transaction falls apart. So acknowledge it for what it is. I think too often as high achievers, we kind of pretend that it doesn't hurt, which doesn't allow us to go through this process and actually get back up. We kind of carry it around. So it's okay to process it for a moment. So one of the things that my coach told me a long time ago is he said, it's okay to take a 5-minute funeral. Don't take a 5-day funeral. So feel the pain, acknowledge what it is. Why does this suck? It's okay because we've got to kind of acknowledge that if we want to keep going. Before we move on to step number 3, it's critical to realize just because you failed or something failed doesn't mean you're a failure. I think too often, as a kid, if you fell off your bike or you were learning to walk and you fell down, you just fell. Right? It's just part of the learning process. And yet later on in life, when we become adults, if something falls apart or we fall down or something doesn't work out, we scrape our knees, all of a sudden we start calling ourselves a failure. You're not a failure, it's just an event. So acknowledge it for what it is, feel the pain for a moment, and just go, that was a moment, right? There was a failure in a moment. It doesn't make me a failure. Be careful with the labels you put on yourselves on this journey of learning who you are. And by the way, if you had it all figured out, like I've never met anyone that has it all figured out. I've never met anyone that's just arrived. We're all learning and we learn from those mistakes. So when you have that failure, just grab the lesson. All right, step number 3. Step number 3 is acknowledge. This was huge for me. Acknowledge that there's 2 options. Right? So you stop. Then step number 2 is you recognize for what it is. Step number 3 is realize you have 2 options. And the 2 options are you can go be a victim and you can go, this is terrible, life is over, right? Why does this happen to me? Right? You can lick your wounds for the next 7 years, or you can go, you know what? This was my biggest aha. This is where this whole movement comes from. My aha was nobody's coming to save me. Right? I either let myself down, let myself become a victim, or I take a stand for myself and I step up and become my own hero. You've got 2 options. You can be a victim or you can learn the lesson and move forward. You've got to make a decision. Step number 3 is recognize there's 2 options and you've got to make a decision. Right? To be your own hero, to step up, to learn the lesson and move forward. Step number 4 is it's important to, once you decide I'm going to be my own hero, I'm going to step up, I'm going to take responsibility for my part of this. Step number 4 is ask yourself, is there anything I can do about this or not? Can I do something about this situation or can I not do something about the situation? Too often we spend all of this energy and effort and emotion and all this stuff on things that we can't control. If there's something I can do about it, awesome. Right? We'll talk about that. If there's not something you can do about it, if it's totally outside of your concern, a transaction falls apart because the dude bought a truck right before he was supposed to close, who knows, right? Sometimes that stuff's just out of your control. So step number 4 is acknowledge, is there something I can do about this or not? If there's not something I can do about this, learn the lesson, go watch Frozen and let it go. If there's something you can do about it, that takes you to step number 5. Learn the lesson and then take the action. What can I do about this? What is within my control to do next? And someone said at one time, they go, the way you live a perfect life, the way you have an incredible life and you know you're doing the right thing is don't always worry about the next 38 decisions. Just make the next right decision. And for me, that was so huge. There's been times in my life when I'm going, I have no idea what's next. I don't know what I'm going to do. There's so many different things before me. It's exhausting to think about. Yet I remind myself that just take the next right decision. Don't worry about decision 38. Just take the next right decision. So for me, especially when you're in that place, if you've fallen down or the world's in a little bit of chaos, make the choice to go, here's what I can do about this. Here's the next right decision. And take that one. And then after you do that, then you get to take the next right decision. And that will lead you to an incredible life. So then the last one. And this one is so interesting. And we've heard about this, and it really hit me home. I think it was Robert, the cool guy from Shark Tank. He said this years ago. He was in a really depressed state, and he was really down. And he went. I believe he went to a counselor, and the counselor said, "Robert, I want you to go give back." And he goes, what are you talking about? So often when we go through bad things, right, we go so internal that we kind of lose sight of the world. One of the things that is so powerful and one of the great ways to get back up, the last step is go give back. Ask yourself, what are some little things I can do to give back? Maybe you go work at a soup kitchen. Maybe you give some money away. Maybe you just go give some gratitude to people. I think one of the best ways to help you get back up after you've made that right decision is to go give back. Go give some great energy to other people. Because one of the things that helped me, those moments when I've hit rock bottom, those moments where I've really struggled and it seems like everything's going crazy, was realizing oftentimes my rock bottom was the place other people were trying to get to. I mean, right, when I hit rock bottom, I was still in a nice, in a warm place, right, sleeping on a blow-up mattress. There's a whole lot of people that would love a blow-up mattress and a warm place to sleep. So for me, that was rock bottom. And yet for other people, they would love to have that. So recognizing and getting some perspective on this is really powerful for me. So go give back and realize that your bad place is where some people are trying to get to. So those are the 7 steps to get back up. So let me give them to you one more time. The 7 steps to get back up. Stop, drop, and tool up. Next one is recognize it for what it is. Then recognize there's 2 roads ahead. Do I be a victim or do I be a victor? Then next is ask yourself, can I do something about this or can I not do something about this? After that, make a decision. What's the next right thing for me to do? Then do that. And the last thing is go give back. Realize that life could be different. Realize that it's amazing to have some perspective and go help some others. I trust those help you. Having a strategy to get back up is so powerful. All of a sudden, then you're less afraid of failure because you know how to get back up. See, I'm not so afraid of things going wrong if I know and I have the strategies to make them right. So here's what's underneath all this, and this is my heart, and the reason that I started, Hero Nation Masterminds, and the reason I do one-on-one coaching, and the reason we're putting out these products is to empower you and equip you with the tools. So one of my favorite analogies is, have you ever come home one day or you're leaving the house, whatever, and you lock your keys in your home? Well, most of us have had that experience, right? You lock the keys in the house, and then you're walking around home trying to find a way, and all of a sudden there's no way to break into your house. You have to call a locksmith. An hour later the locksmith shows up and reads keys that let you in, whatever it is. Well, what do you do the next day? The next day, almost all of us, we get a hide a key, we give a neighbor a key, we give mom a key. What we do in our minds is we go, I'm never going to let that happen again, so I'm going to put a system in place. I'm going to do something different so that never happens again. Well, here's what's crazy about this journey. How often do we have things happen in our life that cause us pain, like locking the keys in the house? We come up to a situation, we lock the keys in the house, and then what's amazing is we don't go hide a key. So what I want you to do is if you've experienced failure at some point, the reason I gave you those 7 steps to get back up is that's your hide a key. That's like, I fall down and you go, you know what? Last time I had to wait an hour and a half for a locksmith. This time I freaking hid a key right next to the front door so I go grab that key and get in my house. I want you to empower yourself and put some of these tools in place like hiding a key so you can get through this stuff faster. Yet the reality is we all have strategies to deal with pain. We all have strategies to deal with failure. The problem is they're usually not the most effective strategies, right? When people deal with pain, people do it all different. Some people drink a whole bunch. Some people sleep for 5 days, whatever it is. We all have different unconscious strategies to deal with pain. Yet what I'm asking you to do is bring that into your awareness, bring that into your conscious mind, and come up with a conscious strategy, a pre-thought out plan, a freaking hide a key so that you can get through these things faster. Right? Because you go, here's what's cool about this. You go, me sleeping for 5 days after I had pain, that works and it allows me to kind of feel better, whatever. And yet it's probably not the most effective way. And you begin to realize if I wallow in this pain, that really doesn't make anything better. What makes it better was when I do this strategy that I pre-planned. And that's the key. The key is pre-planning some of these strategies. Pre-planning, here's the 7 ways I get back up before you fall down. Because what we know is, what I've experienced is when I'm in that fall down place, or when I'm in that tough place, sometimes it's hard to have a high-minded conversation with yourself. So you got to freaking hide the key so I can go there and go, cool. What I told myself was, instead of going to the bar, instead of crying for 5 days, I would go, right, like my friend John said, I'm going to go fish. I'm going to force myself to go fishing for an hour to clear my mind. Right? Instead of just pretending it's not happening, I have a pre-planned strategy to go clear my mind. I have pre-planned questions to ask myself to get back on my feet. Pre-planning for this stuff is what's going to empower you to have a really big life. And it's going to give you the self-confidence and the surety that I can get through anything. Right? So all of a sudden I stop avoiding pain and I start knowing that if I do experience pain, I know how to get through it. Here's another thing that I want to give you before we wrap up this series is not only how do I get back up when I fall down, how do I stay in momentum? One of the greatest things for us, especially as entrepreneurs and business owners, is staying in momentum. So I'm going to give you 6 or 7 strategies to how you can stay in momentum. So the first thing is having clarity of goal and keeping it in front of you, right? That's why people say have a vision board. Know what I need to do every single day so that I have it in front of me and I can stay in momentum. I can stay in that thing. I can stay in that going, driving thing because I know what I need to know. I know where I'm going and it's clear. That's why you've heard everyone say, revisit your goals daily. If you don't revisit your goals daily, you don't have a dream board, you don't have whatever, you will get distracted, you'll get discouraged, you'll begin to drift. So one of the other things I wanted to give to you, here's how you stay in momentum. You set up some bumpers, right? Would it make any sense if you're going bowling and you threw the ball, it's halfway down the lane, and you go, crap, it's drifting, put up the bumpers, right? There's no way the bumpers would get up in time. What you've got to do in your business, if you want to stay in momentum, is you've got to put some of those bumpers up before you throw the ball. So some of the bumpers are like having your dream board, having those goals in front of you. Another thing is, who do you surround yourself with? Right? Having powerful people, right, that are in your life that if you begin to drift, they will call you out. I have some great friends in my life that when I begin to drift, when I start getting weird, whatever it is, they will just call me on my stuff. And I love that because they catch me before I've gone too far. You've got to have great people in your life that are willing to tell you the truth, that are willing to call you out on your stuff out of love, because that will help you stay in the lane. You may drift a little bit back and forth, yet you're probably not going to go all the way into the gutter as often if you have great people in your world. Which is another reason, another one of those bumpers is tracking your numbers. You've got to track your numbers. That's why I want you to track them on a daily, weekly basis so that you know, am I on track, right, to hit all 10 pins, or am I off track? And if you don't have those numbers, you could begin to drift and you won't catch yourself before it's too late. So underneath all of this is my favorite law. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. These are the things you can do to stay in momentum so that you don't drift into the gutter. There's two more things on here, I guess three more. We'll just keep going. There's three because I want to give you everything I've got. So the next one is having a coach or a mentor in your life. And I think that's why, the people that choose to coach with me, one of the things I do for them is sometimes I see stuff that they don't see, right? Because I'm not so close that I can't see it. One of our great friends, Paige, gave me this analogy, and she goes, one of the reasons why it's tough for you to coach yourself is it's almost that analogy of, have you ever had a camera and you're trying to take a picture of something and you're too close to it, and you're so close to the image it's fuzzy and you have to back up so you can get clarity of what that image is? Well, it's kind of like in our life. One of the reasons that people coach with me is because they realize they're really close to their life, and one of the things that I enable them to do is I can help pull them back, give them perception so they can see what's really going on in a more accurate way. The second to last thing is, do you have a pre-planned protocol to get back into the middle of the lane? Right? If you are drifting off, if it's the 10th of the month or the 15th of the month, do you have a pre-planned strategy to get back into the middle of the lane? Maybe it's, I'm going to have to double up my calls. Maybe it's, I'm going to have to work a weekend, whatever it is. Do I have a pre-planned strategy to get back on track and hit my goals? And the last thing I think you need to do to stay in momentum is, maybe this was just for me, I think the last one is you've got to have some fun. Do you have some fun in your life? Are you enjoying this journey? It doesn't mean you don't work hard. It doesn't mean you're not playing all in. Yet you've got to have some fun. You've got to enjoy this journey on some level. Maybe it means that once I get done my lead generation, I get to go have a Starbucks. Maybe it means I join a hockey team and I have I have a hobby. Whatever it is, you've got to make sure you're having some fun on this journey. You're enjoying this ride, right? Play all in, enjoy it, and yet give yourself permission to have some fun along the way. If you just push yourself all out and you don't enjoy it all, you will burn out. One of the ways you avoid burnout is knowing what I need to do. Putting the bumpers in the lane, tracking my numbers, having great people around me, and having some fun along the way. As we begin to wrap this up, I want to give you some final questions and then some of my final thoughts. So here's some of the questions I want you to ask yourself moving forward. What specifically have I achieved in the last 7 videos? What are the ahas that I've gotten out of this? What are the 2 or 3 things that I'm committed to that I took from the could-do list to the should-do list that have arrived on the must-do list? And then have I made a SMART goal? Have I turned them into a SMART goal and made a plan around implementing those? What are your top 3 goals? What are the 5 things you're committed to doing each day? As you're watching this, you may want to pause and just write down some of these. As you've gone through this, ask yourself, what have you identified you need to let go of? What are some beliefs or some activities that you need to let go of and install some new ones? See, sometimes it's not that we have a problem implementing new habits. Sometimes it's a problem with letting go of the habits that we've had in the past. So what are some of those new habits that you know you need to instill? A great question to ask yourself is what are the habits of a highly successful person in this role? If I want to be someone that closes 5, 6, 1,000 transactions a year, what are the habits that person's doing that I need to do? What are some daily habits that are holding me back? How are you? A great question to ask yourself is there any area of my life I'm self-sabotaging, right? If I'm going to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning, that's probably self-sabotaging my success, right? People go, I'm not a morning person. I go, you're probably not a morning person because you're going to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning. It's hard to get up at 5 when you go to bed at 2. One of the ways you can stop self-sabotaging is going to bed early so it empowers you to get up earlier. Make sense? So here's the last question I want to ask you. Specifically, what have you learned about yourself in these 8 videos? And what's the one thing that beyond everything else you're going to implement into your life? What's the one aha that you're going to take from an aha all the way to a success? All right, my friends, here's some of my final thoughts. First off, thank you for being with me on this journey. I am so proud of you that you've stuck with us, that you've implemented things. So let me give you some of my final thoughts. First, you really can choose your mindset and your energy. Mindset, energy, happiness, what you've realized is it's a choice. It's not something you find. Someone said one time, they go, energy is not something you find, it's something you create from the inside. And it's the same thing with happiness. You don't find happiness, you create happiness. Number 2, there are a lot of ways to build your business. There's lots of ways to build a big business. Choose 1 or 2 ways and go become the best in the world at those. The unsuccessful people chase 1,000 different things. Successful people go, I'm going to be the best in the world at this one thing or these 2 things, and I'm going to make them incredible. Stop chasing everything. Choose a couple things to go be the best in the world at. Number 3, distractions kill more dreams than anything else. Get rid of the distractions. Get rid of the things that aren't working for you. Get rid of the things that are not your highest and best use of time. One of my mentors said one time, they go, most people would be blown away if they realized all the things they don't need to be doing. I love this one. This is one of my favorites. Life is not about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself. This whole journey has been about creating a business you choose, creating a life you choose, creating energy levels and a mindset that you choose. Don't go out there to find yourself. Go out there to create the life you want to have. The best way to predict the future is freaking create it. Number 5 is the quality of our questions will determine the quality of our lives. I've asked you a lot of great questions. You ask great questions, you get great answers. So the quality of your questions will determine the quality of your lives. Are you asking big, great, clear questions, right? Become a question nerd, right? Become someone that collects great questions and has a system of asking yourself great questions from time to time, right? Every day, every week to make sure you're on track. Great questions will lead to a great life. Number 6, we've said this several different ways. It's not what happens to you, it's how you respond that determines everything, right? Choose to be someone that responds in a powerful way. Choose someone that knows how to respond. So you're not just giving a reaction, you're actually giving a great response to life. Number 7 is clarity is critical. Anytime I'm feeling anxious, usually it's because I'm not clear. If I begin to feel anxious throughout my day, one of the things I do is I sit down and I go, what's all the stuff that I could do? What's the stuff that I should do? And what do I must do? Right? It brings clarity back in my life. If I'm feeling anxious, usually it's because I'm not clear on the next right decision. I'm not clear on what the most important thing is to do. So get clarity in your life. Get clarity in your business. We've talked about that over and over. And yet, with the more clarity you have, the more energy you'll have, the more present you'll become, the more powerful you'll feel in your essence. The more certainty you will have, the more you will be in momentum. So go get, if there's an area of your life that's foggy, go get some clarity. Here are the last 2. You don't have to be perfect, right? So someone said, if you wait till you're perfect to start, you'll never start. And yet, if you do want to be amazing, you have to start. Right? Action equals momentum. You've got to start somewhere. So don't worry about everything being perfect. Just start taking great action, and that continued action and asking yourself great questions will eventually lead to being perfect. You don't have to be great to start. Yet if you ever want to be great, you have to start. I want you to ask yourself this big question. At the end of the day, at the end of your life, I think most of us want to be able to answer these 3 questions with a resounding yes. So ask yourself, at the end of this year, at the end of your life, what do you need to do? What do you need to have achieved? What do you need to have in place to really be able to say, at the end of this year, what do you have to do to be able to say, I really loved, I really lived, and I really made a difference? What do you need to do to really love, to be able to say, I really loved, I really lived all out, and I really made a difference? Thank you for being with me on this journey. I trust you've gotten so much out. I love to get your feedback on this, right? Watch the other things we're putting out. Give us feedback on what you'd like to see. And remember that at the end of the day, you don't have to do this alone, yet you do have to make a decision. Are you going to be a victim, or are you going to be a victor? Are you going to wait for someone to be your hero, or are you going to choose to be your own hero so then you can go be the hero for others? I so appreciate you. Be your own hero. See you on the journey.